I'm over here playback. I'm like, take that. Boom. Boom. You know that song's about me, right? No? You're not connecting it? You're on mute. Am I on mute? Someone's on mute.
All right, we'll go to you in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac. I've got a lot of inputs here. Hoping there's enough outputs, and one of them's getting live to you guys here. What do we got going on, Mr. Belman, as we enjoy a fine Friday? I can see my hair sticking up. It's coiffed nicely. It looks like I have my Cupid doll at this point. The way the light's hitting it. We had closets redone at the house. So I've got all the closet stuff sitting in here because they redid. They put in installation stuff, and I look a little sunburned. I was out walking today. So if you're watching me on playback, I look about as pink as my shirt. If you see me or playback, I'm good on StreamYard and YouTube. I got a nice little red nose going on here. I should have used sunscreen, Matt, and it's November. God bless.
I know that feeling. I am jealous though because it got cold here quickly. It is frigid. No snow yet, but man, it got cold. So I'm jealous of you and that Florida weather.
It is something else. It is something else. So we have an interesting slate today because DraftKings said, you know what? We're only going to put 5 games on this. We're going from 7:30 until 8 o'clock. FanDuel said, hey, we invented that, and now we're not going to use it this year. So at least to this point. So FanDuel gonna FanDuel. This makes for a really awkward slate. So we're gonna kind of go we'll go guard, forward, and center, and then we'll kind of talk DraftKings, and then we'll loop in FanDuel because what it's doing is there's a lot of plays that are gonna be 15 or 20% on DraftKings, and they're like 8% on FanDuel. So the plays are gonna be very different tonight. And for those of you playing over on the secret site, well, you're just kind of out of luck, but that's okay since nobody posts content for that site anymore. It's the little honey hole that is the secret site. If so, Tex is in there. He'll tell you guys what's up. All right, Matt, we have some injuries. If you are playing the full slate, get Russell Westbrook in your lineup because Jamal Murray is out. We have Aaron Gordon is carrying the Q tag. He's probable he should play. You have a host of people out for Utah. No Lauri Markkanen, no Jordan Clarkson. They essentially said, you know what, we're 0-5, but we need to make sure we're 0-82 because we want to flag for flag, right? That's the whole thing going on this year. So Utah apparently waving the white flag on the entire season. As we go to the first games that we have to worry about here tonight, Kevin Huerter dealing with an illness, so he's going to be out for Sacramento. Sacramento and Toronto are each on back-to-backs. This is the third game in 4 nights for both. And since last Saturday, I believe they've each played 5 games. So busy times there, but Toronto's very shorthanded. Bruce Brown has not yet made his debut. Kelly Olynyk's not made his debut. Scotty Barnes is out with an orbital issue for at least 2, if not 3 weeks. And then also Emmanuel Quickley is missing his 6th game with an injury. We've got, let's see, Memphis and Philly. Memphis is going to Memphis tonight. No Conchar. Luke Kennard has not yet debuted, but also on the Philly side, no Embiid and no Paul George. I meant to ask producer Mike about that. Sounds like Embiid's a little angry with people calling him out for not wanting to play a lot. Next thing happens, you know what that is, Matt? He's going to request a trade.
No, we've never seen that before in the NBA.
Not in Philly.
He's totally requesting a trade. He's going to Charles Barkley his way out of there. That's for your old school folks that remember Charles Barkley. The round mound of rebound actually did play in the city of brotherly love. Looking through here, still no Chris Middleton. That's important because it's all Giannis all the time. With the usage, Damian Lillard is the sidekick. Nobody else scoring more than 12 points a game for the Bucks, who have one victory on the season. Steph Curry is out. DeAnthony Melton is out. That has thrust Brandon Podziemski into consideration. I thought I saw Andrew Wiggins ruled out, but now I see that he's in. He's been dealing with the sore back, so keep tabs on that one. I I think that hits all of our important stuff for the feature slate. And then Phoenix looks like they're going to have everybody in. We do have Shaden Sharp still out for Portland. Okay, Matt. So this is going to be interesting. Let's focus on DK guards. We'll give that about 5-6 minutes. Then we'll round out FanDuel. Then we'll do the same with forwards. I'm sure news will break, and it'll just be pure chaos. But here we are, Saturday NBA, baby.
Yeah, so the guard I'm getting the most exposure to on DK through the Sims and all and whatnot is Keon Ellis. Slightly under the field. He's projected to be like 60% owned. I'm getting 55% of them. So my highest owned player overall, or no, not my highest player, my highest owned guard, RJ Barrett's my highest owned overall player. But from the low end, Keon Ellis looks like a really good play. And then the guy I'm spending up a little bit on is Donovan Mitchell. This is about the cheapest we've seen Mitchell in years. He was 8,200 last night. That game kind of got out of hand. Cleveland's just been playing really good ball. They're slight underdogs tonight in Milwaukee, though. So this game should be competitive. That line is fishy, but if nothing else, it suggests that this game should be tight, and I would expect it to be higher scoring. So I like Mitchell a lot in this spot on the higher range, and in the lower range, I think Keon Ellis is free square-ish.
Okay, that is interesting because there's another Mitchell that's coming into play for a cheap guard, and that is going to be Donovan. Pardon me. Now I screwed it all up. Davion Mitchell, off night as he is called, because he gets a Remember Me game. He was traded.
Oh yes, he does.
He was traded in June to Toronto from Sacramento, so things could be a little spicy there.
I'm getting a little of him also. He's just not a great fantasy producer.
No. $10 on the secret site, Sotex. I'm debating between him and Case and Wallace, but we got to know what we're doing with Davion because he starts at 6:30, or pardon me, 7:30. The Darius Garland was someone that was kind of had intrigued me thus far, Matt, and kind of key things to think about with him. Similar to Mitchell, he had a little bit more favorable salary, but because the Cavaliers have been winning by an average of 17 points per game, that is second only to the other undefeated team, that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, Cleveland is undefeated, 6-0. Thunder are 5-0. Garland is playing like 27 minutes, 28 minutes per game, something like that. It's pretty minuscule. 3 of his games he's played under 24 minutes. Think about that. Starting point guard, borderline all-star, is playing just shy of half the minutes in half the games. That's how good Cleveland has been. But he's been getting there on efficiency. In his last 4 games, he's had at least 30 fantasy points, including a 50 fantasy point outing. The important things to note, he's been incredibly good from the field, with 57% rate. Oh, sorry. No, I'm out of play. Give me a sec here. I blame Mike. Because he is not here to defend himself. Dun, dun, dun.
I am here.
There he is.
It probably was me. Welcome back.
All right. So I've closed that window, but not the tab. So I'm on to the other pages here. So the key things about Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, is that he has just been amazing. 23.5 points, 2 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2.5 combined blocks and steals. As you mentioned, this line looks a little odd. I would have thought Cleveland would be about a 2.5, maybe a 3.5 point favorite based upon the early going of the season, especially since Milwaukee just cannot get anything going without Chris Middleton. They've changed around a few key players. Gary Trent Jr. is in. Some of the Flotsam and Jetsam that played in their rotation is out for this year. Bobby Portis is another year older. So is Brook Lopez. He's 36 now. So it's putting everything back on Giannis's shoulders. But we'll get to Giannis when we get to that position. But Mitchell and Garland are both good options, I think, on DraftKings. Get a little less popular on FanDuel when we double up our player pool here. But Garland's on my short list for DraftKings.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention Garland. I'm getting slightly more of him than Mitchell. So price thing, he's been really good. As you mentioned, the efficiency's been there. They just haven't needed him a ton with how good they've been all around. But again, tonight, 2-point dogs in Milwaukee. It's one of the fishier lines I can remember. But either way, game should be competitive. So Garland at 6,600 looks like kind of a steal.
Did you ever know that, I can't remember if I've talked about this, that his dad, Winston, was on my first ever fantasy team back in 1989?
We did not talk about that, and that is awesome.
There we go. The old Winston Garland there.
That's even before me.
It's a long time ago. It's a long time ago.
And he wasn't even like good.
Hey, he was adequate. He played for the Golden State Warriors for a long time. I think he's played for a couple other teams. I don't recall for sure. After that was a long time ago. A lot of our research was done in Street and Smith, which was a publication that was printed magazine about 2 months before the season. The other thing to remember, there were no fantasy magazines at that point. Well, the fantasy magazines at that point in time was a different kind of fantasy, different kind of magazine. But back to today, DFS, that is. What else do you have here for guards that are popping? Let's. What about the high scoring fellows?
The what fellows? Sorry,
high scoring, the big points, the producers.
I mean, I think that's where Donovan Mitchell comes into play. He looks really, really good here. Getting over the field on him quite significantly. Over the field on De'Aaron Fox and Ja Morant. Ja Morant's really low owned here. I'm getting about 3 times the field on him. So guard position looks pretty solid for a smaller slate tonight. Yeah,
De'Aaron Fox, a good call out. He just racked up the fantasy goodness last night, had just over 30 points. He also had 4 steals. He, as I mentioned, is kind of that back-to-back game there. Will sort of transition or bring along DeMar DeRozan. He had, I think it was 27 points, 3 steals last night. He has slipped into the his usual low 20s points, around 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That's good to see since he's played a gazillion years, but he is with the Sacramento Kings for the first time, going back to one of his old stomping grounds there in Toronto. This is less of a remember me than a remember me. We won the title when I was here. He's beloved by Toronto, so it's a little bit different of a welcome in this remember me game. So I think he's more of a neutral fantasy play here. Is there anybody else up at the top, DraftKings, and then we'll talk some FanDuel here.
I don't really think so.
All right, so let me figure out how I want to sort this. I can go in and use the guard. Let's see. We did, obviously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to stand out dramatically. This is in the final game of the night. That is a 10:30 start. It is the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Clippers. So you've got SGA and James Harden really standing out. Your best point per dollar play is probably going to be Russell Westbrook. I can make sure I don't say Russell Wilson, but Russell Westbrook. That had moments in Denver. There we go. Loosely tied to Seattle a little bit, because the Seattle Supersonics, Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm getting old. Those 2 guys are kind of the main ones that are popping up here, just from a potential and a raw fantasy points. The thing we have to worry about a little bit with Alexander is that there is potential blowout. Here, they're favored by about 10. They have pretty much the best defense in the league. He's still going to be one of their main scorers. Basically, they got 3 scorers right now in Oklahoma City. SGA, who's probably going to be top 5 on the season in the scoring chase. Then you've got Holmgren, and then you've got Jalen Williams, the good Jalen Williams, not Jalen with a Y Williams, J-Dub. So that is kind of the 2 guys that really stand out on the other slate. And then sort of your neutral option would be Anthony Edwards. In there, that's he's an okay play because of the way the slate's breaking out. Awesome 2-way player. He's going to be a guy we talk about for DFS all the time. Just the way we go from a 5-game slate without him to a 10-game slate with him, and you got the Westbrook in there. It's making it a little tough to get him.
Even on DK, it's tough to get him.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about from guards? Let's see if there's any values. Colin Sexton.
No, but who was the guard you were saying was going back to Toronto?
DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, but he never won a title there. He was traded for Kawhi.
Oh, shit. You're right. Oh.
I knew there was something off there. I had
don't have to go get my Fred Van Elite jersey.
He's still beloved in Toronto, though.
He's still beloved in Toronto. There is no question about that. He kind of got hosed a little bit there. Yeah, because he didn't make the title. That's right. Thank you. Man, all these years. Been doing this since 1989. They're all starting to kind of blend together here.
You've been doing it since Wayne Garland.
Winston
Garland, yeah.
I was with Tom Chambers was on that team for me. Del Curry, you may know his kids, Seth and Steph. They were on that team. A long time ago. Good times. I wonder if there was anybody else that is father-son combo on the. Oh, yeah, actually there is. Larry Nance was on my team. Larry Nance Jr. That was back when Larry Nance was, dunking 2 balls in the All-Star game. Pretty awesome. Colin Sexton will get us out of FanDuel here. He is coming up as our second best point per dollar play on FanDuel behind Russell Westbrook here. So that is kind of the last guy I want to throw out. And for you, Keon Ellis is popping up at 3,900 on FanDuel.
Yeah, it makes sense. He's probably a better play on FanDuel just because of the stuff he does.
All right, on to forwards. I already bungled the whole DeMar DeRozan thing, but you know what? It's Saturday. If you're going to mess around with some double Ds, Saturday's the day to do it. What do you got here for basketball?
Small forward, I think RJ Barrett is just a lock. He's getting 70% ownership. I'm getting 80. We've seen how productive he's been with no Quickly. Obviously, you've taken like everyone off of Toronto with no Quickly, no Scotty Barnes. So he's the guy there. And they're not great. They're not good at all. But when they're in games, a lot of it's going to be because of him, or he's going to have a hand in it at least. So he looks really good. I think Grady Dick looks good. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. And then we'll get to the bigs in a minute. But yeah, small forward is Barrett, Grady Dick, and then some Malik Monk.
Yeah, key things for Barrett. Prior to joining Toronto, he had a career 42.3% field goal percentage since Toronto. So 32 games last year, and then 3 or 4 so far this year, 55%. With a 61.2% true shooting or effective field goal percentage here. So I don't know that that's going to be sticky, but all the shots in all the land, as Mr. Lindquist would like to say, are going to be going RJ Barrett's way. You mentioned Grady Dick. He has personal bests in 3 of his last 4 games, including 30 and then 31 points last night. He has just been chucking it up there, mostly unsustainable from 3-point range, but he's still going to get the opportunities because they need scoring here in Toronto without Quickly. Obviously, Scotty Barnes hurt, as we mentioned at the top of the show here. So that's kind of an interesting game. That's a 7:30 game. That's going to kind of dominate the DraftKings slate at most of the positions here. Or we don't have to go overboard on them, but they're pretty much top 3 most popular play at every position is coming from this game on the 5-game DraftKings slate. Let's see here. So no Kevin Huerter. Is there anybody else you'd push into the forefront here for the Kings? That should mean more time and more field goal attempts from Malik Monk. They may I haven't seen the starting lineup. They may still keep him coming off the bench. It's hard to say Keegan Murray can do more. He's already playing a ton of minutes. He's already getting a ton of shots. He can sustain that, I guess, but it's hard to give him more than what he's had over the last few games. Does that injury with Huerter playing about 24 to 28 minutes do anything for you?
Yeah, I think Monk's the guy that probably steps in. Again, pretty easy matchup for the Kings. So, who knows, who gets squeezed out, but they should be able to do whatever they want against this Raptors team playing on the second half of a back-to-back. Both teams are, I know, but Toronto stinks. So a lot to like on Sacramento. I think Monk is the guy that gets the biggest boost. He's getting ownership, but it's deserved.
All righty. Get back to the filtered section here. Let's take a peek at DraftKings, see if we've really missed calling out anybody. And we'll have time to go back and answer questions and talk through stuff. This is just kind of a choppy slate with the way both sides did it. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be one of the key plays on DraftKings. He is putting up a stat line very similar to what he did in both of his MVP seasons. A little less with the blocks and steals, but he's right there with points, rebounds, assists, and overall fantasy points as well. Let's see. We mentioned RJ Barrett. So that's maybe a little bit on Evan Mobley. Any love there? Another guy hardly playing minutes for a team that's just crushing right now.
Yeah, his price is down now to 7,400. Again, Mobley looks like he's taken a big leap this year. And he's not getting a ton of ownership, even with the price discount. So getting squeezed out just because of the context of the slate. But I like Mobley, especially as like a pivot off of Julius Randle, or if you're not going the stars and scrubs build, it looks like Giannis is going to be the highest owned power forward. Yeah, I do like Mobley as a contrarian option quite a bit.
All right. And then a couple tricky plays. So Phoenix on that late slate, as is somehow the Wizards are starting a game at 9:30 tonight. I didn't go investigate to see what was
Mexico
going on.
City.
Oh, good call out. Playing at altitude. We've seen this before. The NBA players do reasonably well up there. The key things are they tend to get obviously more tired more quickly, but it's not quite the same as watching field goals get kicked from a million yards out or home runs just get jacked. So it's more or less a pretty normal game as long as they are giving them a little bit less on the rotation. I don't think it's going to be too much of a deal for basketball to be played there. But again, all the scoring and activities are all, 30 feet within 30 feet of the hoop for the most part. So it really doesn't give the altitude time to impact things. It's more than playing at Denver. It's basically Salt Lake City to Denver is then almost double Denver to Mexico City for perspective there. But that's kind of the big difference. But thank you. I had not realized they were, and I should have, because that's why they were doing stuff in Spanish on the Wizards Twitter stuff. I still follow, even though I'm down here in Florida. I thought it was because they were in Miami and they were doing something related to that. But anyway, Jimmy Butler and Devin Booker are guys that are sort of popping here on the FanDuel mix. Booker a little bit more expensive at 8,500, but he is, gets more shots and has the higher ceiling. Jimmy Buckets still getting it done this season. Do you like either of those guys or Julius Randle, perhaps?
I like Randle. But again, it's hard for me to contextualize between FanDuel and DraftKings because I'm not playing FanDuel. But yeah, really good spot for Miami, no doubt about it.
All right. I am going to make my evening college football. This is great because I've got the Sims up here. So I'm currently making college football lineups. I'm going to play on FanDuel. I'll make those lineups in a minute. I'm also playing on DraftKings. How am I able to do all that? Well, we've got some great information here that allows me, and tools that allow me to do all of this. So I'm going to drop this link into chat here. This is how you can sign up for a variety of sites and get 1 month of the Stokastic Sims for each site that you aren't already a part of yet. And you can stack these. So what do you got to do? You got to come in through the link that I just dropped into chat. If you've lost that, if you're listening, you don't have chat open, it is in the YouTube description below us here for our video. You can sign up using the offer, make your deposit, and then you've got to look at these. Some of them are bet $5, some of them are bet $10, but any of these that you have not, sites that you have not signed up for. And we've got a ton of DFS sites on there, a ton of pick'em sites, and a ton of sportsbook sites. Sign up there, follow the thing. Most of them just ask you to make a bet or a pick'em card. Once you have, you take a screenshot of that with your welcome email, forward that to support@stokastic.com, and we will get you 30 days of these Stokastic Sims. And again, you can stack these on top of each other. There's 3 or 4 sites there, and there's a couple obscure ones you can sign up for and then get the Stokastic Sims. Or perhaps you're visiting relatives in a state that is enlightened and has sports wagering, but you don't have it in your state. You could always follow some of these when you're on a little bit of a vacation. This deal is not going to last forever, and it's pretty cool. So check that out. That is the Stokastic Sims promotion. Back to forwards here. Anything else with Kevin Durant? Again, another shout out for Jalen Williams. I think he's reasonable tonight. Are we ready to go into centers?
Let's jump into centers.
All right. That brings Domantas Sabonis here, Jakob Poeltl, also known as Jake Puddle, Those two guys are squaring off today. You can play both of them on DraftKings, since we can play an extra center. And then Sabonis also has power forward eligibility on FanDuel, so we can play them both over there. Sabonis is scoring more than he has previously. He is the rebound king. He has won the NBA rebounding title each of the last 2 seasons. I think he's around 11 and a half per game. Expect that to tick up a little bit here, but there's some competition this year, so it'll be interesting to see where that shakes out. And then as DeMar DeRozan is working back into the fold here, it'll be interesting to see how the assists play out, because DeRozan tends to get more assists than Harrison Barnes did. So a little bit of a change there around Sabonis. May not get his 26 triple-doubles like he did last year, but oh yes, a reprisal of the 77 double-doubles, that is in play, making him an excellent foundational piece with upside here. Those are the main guys that are popping up here on the featured slate for DraftKings. Do you have any you would like to add? You're on mute.
I am not anymore. I do think it's a night where you could potentially play power forwards there, just because limited slate, like Podol, obviously. I think he's getting a little bit too much love, but you just see this team right now, and besides Barrett and Podol, like, they got nothing. So it's just a matter of whether they can keep the game close. I talked about Randall. Şengün is the guy I'm way over on.
Okay.
He's coming in 10% owned. I'm getting about 25% of them. I think it's a price thing, and just the fact that, yeah, he is volatile, because, you know, some games they don't play him huge minutes, but his upside is fantastic at this price point. And in tournaments, I'm willing to embrace that.
When do you think we're going to see a triple-double from him this year? Do they need some players to be hurt to get there, or can he access that anyway?
Yeah, I feel like as soon as Jalen Green goes down.
Okay. Not that we wish ill will upon anybody, but a Şengün triple-double, that would be a sight to see. Let's maneuver over here to the FanDuel side, and then we have plenty of time to take questions. We'll talk some strategy, etc. here. Let me get to FanDuel. Let's go with centers. So Jonas Valanciunas is one of our better point per dollar plays. Jokic is going to need to do a ton tonight, since there is no point guard, well, other than Russell Westbrook. So he is in a fine spot here. Andre Drummond is popping a little bit. He's been kind of disappointing, I guess, from the Phillies side, when we're expecting all these smash games, but he's playing every game right now. He'll have his moments later, but his price is kind of appropriate. You mentioned Şengün and Pirtle there. Feel like I'm missing somebody. Oh yeah, Chet Holmgren. What do you like there with Chet? He's talking about a late night hammer on FanDuel, someone that can rack up 3 points per block and steal.
Man, he's been a monster this year too. A lot to like about him here. There's, with OKC, it's always going to be like, will other teams stay in the game with them? That's the question, pretty much every time. Clippers stink, but it's in LA. The Clippers aren't good, but they're not like Raptors bad. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about this whole game, presuming that the Clippers can keep it competitive. I know it's a lower total, but Holmgren doesn't need a high total to get there just because of everything he does. So, yeah, I'm always interested in him, especially in games that I think might be more competitive, which tonight certainly could be.
All right. How do you feel about any game stacks here? Because we're getting a few players coming together here from Sacramento and Toronto. You can kind of make an argument. We know where the production should be coming from in the Milwaukee and Cleveland game. Would you consider that path with just 5 games on the DK slate today?
I used to be huge in game stacking, and I still think it applies, but only naturally. Like, NBA is not a sport. There really is no sport that I think game stacking is like what you set out to do. Certainly, if you get like a triple overtime game in the NBA, you want every piece of that game as you can get. But good luck predicting which games are going to go to double overtime, triple overtime. Excuse me. So for me, if the prices are right on both sides, I'll have no problem game stacking. But in that same vein, like, I don't have no problem taking 4 or 5 guys from a team and no one from the other team if the pricing is right. Like, yeah, if I'm going to be using 3 guys from a team and one of them's 10K, one of them's 8K, one of them's 5K, they're going to need their full run to get there. But when guys are out, like we've seen with Toronto, and just there's so many cheap players, I have no issues playing 4 guys from a team and no one running to get back.
All right. Who is? And I don't have my news.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. One of my best nights on FanDuel, I had game stack. I had 3 players from a game that went at least double overtime. The Clippers were involved. I can't remember who they played. It was 2 seasons ago, but that ended up being a very nice night for me. And it just all seems kind of random. Oh, there's my alarm reminding me to upload these very, very.
What's that time for you?
No, well, almost. But no, I'm uploading my college football lineups here. It's hard to force it like a full game stack. Like you said, predicting it. I mean, there's about a 2 to 3% chance any game is going to go into overtime. I don't know the exact math, but it's probably something similar to that. So it makes it tricky to figure it out. Then you got to get the players right. What if you grabbed somebody that didn't end up in the closing lineup or they got into foul trouble?
Right.
What if it was a sluggish game instead of a track meet game?
Right.
There's pros and cons. When it happens, everybody's like, yeah, we should have done that. And it's like,
of course.
Maybe. The other thing to remember is we're learning more and more as we get to these sims. Remember, you can sign up and get these on the cheap if you go through that link below us here. But we're seeing via the sims, there's so much more that goes into the ROI and how it plays against the rest of the field and the leverage. You almost need to thread the needle if you're going to game stack something. And, was there cheap chalk that you didn't play to make it happen? Was there a great play from another game that you didn't play to make it happen? Then they went off and your players didn't. And did. There's many paths here. On how you can get to that. So I like to sprinkle things in every now and then, but for me, it's kind of a 2-1, maybe a 2-2. And it's really hard to force, right? Unless it's kind of happening naturally. And it's sort of like, right. I've got Garland and Mitchell. Don't I kind of want, well, shoot, only one of 2 players I really want from Milwaukee. And if I go with Giannis, my salary cap is hosed. Although tonight there's enough value that probably works.
But that's where the pricing thing comes in, and I'm talking about. Like, if you're playing Garland and Mitchell, you're spending $15K on them. Like, you need full run, Whereas if you're using a couple, random guys from a team that has injuries, you don't need that. Yeah, I don't know. I will say the one thing I agree with you that I didn't mention, I do like the ideas of when Trae Young and LaMelo Ball play each other, like going Young and Ball and hoping that it's like a back and forth type. You're not game stacking, but in those situations, I see the logic for sure.
Yeah, and it's that's where it sort of becomes, the in-game synergy, if you will, the situations. But yeah, the one of the better game stacks I remember, God, it was a Saturday show I did with Fast Eddie Fear back in the FanVice days, and it was Chicago and the Knicks, and they went into like double overtime, and I think Rolo was involved, Robin Lopez, definitely not Brooke, because he hadn't played for those teams, and I think Bobby Portis was involved. I mean, this was forever ago, but like that was the game you ended up needing to have. But it ended up being a high scoring game as well, and they were all low owned because everybody thought it was going to be a rock fight. So, and I think at least one of the teams was already on a back to back where either that or the game after that one of the teams ended up being in another overtime game. It was one of those just weird, unique things. But in any event, that was where we were for that one. All righty.
I will say I love how DraftKings is like taking away the late games on a lot.
Yeah, but then we're not playing anybody from the Western Conference unless they're on the road. It sucks.
I hate it when they always do it. I like it sometimes. I agree with you. I don't like it that it just kind of takes teams away from slates that we just won't play, but it makes constructing lineups a lot easier. And just, having a family, having a wife, like, she's bitching if I'm on the computer all night, every night.
That's what earplugs are for. AirPods.
I mean, tell it to her. Trust me.
DIV, IORC, something like that. I think they write songs about that. Let's see. Kay Sizzle says, what's crazy about EMac's story is I remember that night because it was my first big win. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Keon Ellis not starting. Does that impact you at all?
No, I don't think who is starting for them? Let me see. McDermott.
Buckets.
Yeah, I think it has to take away Ellis because he was projected to start. And, Malik Monk is obviously going to be the first guy off the bench. And it's not like Keon Ellis is super productive. So, I still like him, but I would imagine when I run the Sims again, I'm going to be way lower on him. And then I still don't really want McDermott either, though.
No, Dougie McBucket's not exactly gonna. It's just not gonna happen. Sorry, friend. Sorry, Mr. McDermott. Let me see here. Why don't I quickly run my FanDuel lineups here? I'm not as worried that that I don't have that final projection updated there because we have some late swap here, and do I want to get rid of any of the early games? Nope, I actually don't. God, we haven't talked a ton about the Grizzlies or the 76ers. Everything's kind of appropriately priced for those guys. Is that kind of your read on that one? Across the sites?
Repeat that, sorry.
Memphis and the 76ers. You kind of mentioned Morant. I kind of mentioned Drummond. We didn't really talk Maxey.
There's not much to love from this game. Pricing's right. It's not the greatest spot for either team. Like the guys you want are expensive and they're getting squeezed out a little bit by just better spots. So just, kind of falling through the wayside. Memphis and Philly are teams I'm sure I'm getting to in 150 type settings. But if I were making one lineup, I think the most likely is I'd get one of the cheap guys from Memphis, but I don't really love that either tonight. They're more expensive. There isn't a ton to pay up for. I don't know.
Let's see. Good call out here. Talk Podziemski. So he is starting. So that I'm pretty sure he's starting. In any event, he is kind of the main ball handler now and a decent backfield scorer. A lot of responsibilities coming with that. Houston, not too shabby on defense, actually. For as much of his offensive failings for Fred VanVleet, since he seems to have left most of his tricks in Toronto, he's still pretty good defensively and harassing people. But I think Podziemski, this is an intriguing spot for him. You do have Andrew Wiggins in, it looks like. So that is a secondary facilitator from the side. And then, of course, Draymond Green is in there. But all of that just means Podziemski is going to have the ball a fair amount, both as a facilitator and as a scorer. So I think he's pretty decent. What are your thoughts on Podziemski? And then anything, I see someone asking, anything you want to mention about Wemby?
I like Pods a lot. Just a solid DFS play always when he's in a role like this. Cog in the machine type, like he's priced up a little bit now. He's 6K or 5,800. But I just think he's a solid cog. Not like an ultimate priority for me, but I wouldn't mind any Podziemski I'd get. It looks like our ownership and projections and stuff have just updated, so I'm just looking for Keon.
Dear God, I'm getting 97% of Russell Westbrook on FanDuel.
Yeah, he is a much better play on FanDuel anyways, though, but man, he stinks.
Oh, I wonder, no Chet Holmgren. So I just gave him a 50% boost. Now, so quickly talking about the boosts here. So what that means is if he's not in the player pool or the lineups that were built out, he's just not going to rise up to the top. Even if I give him 50%, let's see where he goes. That's just adding to the ROI. That still didn't give me any of them. I'm going to give him 100% just to see what that does. I'll be shocked with the way this is playing out if I get him for more than 2 or 3%, because again, his ROI doesn't appear to be that great. So if that's the one thing when you're working with the Sims here, if you have certain players that you have a conviction on, it's okay. So I boosted him 100%. I have him in 3% of my lineups. He's somebody I'd really like to play, but that is blocking the center spot. He is 9,200, but I love the 3 blocks or 3 points for blocks and steals. So that is something. There are other ways you can get in there and do it. You can go tweak his projections. You could just filter on him, pick some of those lineups that have some of the better ROI. But the thing you want to remember is that when you're forcing some of these ROIs, it's not like you're pushing projections. It's just saying, okay, push the ROI up. We're filtering it by ROI, return on investment. If that's not enough to get them there, then if for someone that's buried that deep, then there are other methodologies you're going to need to utilize to get that. but that is just something I wanted to call out. I bumped him up to 135%. I got him on 9%. I'm going to leave it at that because I still want to build out my DraftKings lineups, but I want to have a representation of him. I bet if I go look at the lineup filter, which I probably should be sharing my screen while I'm doing this, but let's go look at Holmgren real quick. Fortunately, every lineup I picked him in is 65% or higher. Most of them are 77% or higher on the expected ROI. If some of these were down in the 20 or 30%, I would just take them out. There's no point in playing lineups like that when I've got thousands of lineups at my disposal that are much better than that. But that's just a quick way to get some things that you would like. I can't stand the laughing talk of this guy. Please leave the jokes and stick to the data. Okay.
Oof.
Okay. That's no, it's fair. It's fair. So, former CPA, I can stick to the data. What's the difference between a good accountant and a great accountant, Matt?
I don't know.
When you ask a good accountant what's 2 + 2, he will tell you it's 4. When you ask a great accountant what 2 + 2 is, he will say, what would you like it to be? See, look at that. Data and jokes and me all in the same story. The Venn diagram is complete.
I respect it.
Okay, there we go. That's what happens when you're on the mic here. You get to call these things.
And I just have a hunch that whoever typed that out in the chat, no matter what you did, probably wasn't going to be happy, because if you're sending stuff, Saturday night in chats like that, you probably just aren't very happy to begin with.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Turn that frown upside down. Buck up, little camper. It will be all right. We have 17 minutes to go. I am now uploading the FanDuel lineups. Then I'll turn around and take a peek here at DraftKings. But let me save that, and we can give some information on where I ended up on FanDuel. Let's go to
everything updated in the tools. So I'm running the Sims right now.
Perfect. That's where I was kind of buying time, because I got significantly more money playing on DraftKings than I do on FanDuel. So Russell Westbrook, we have 90% in the for the field. I got it to 95%, so I took him out of a couple lineups. That perfectly comfortable. It is the last game of the night, so if your lineups die with him or whatever, it's going to happen. Keon Ellis ended up on more of my lineups. He's still 3,900. He's not a bad play on FanDuel, but I'm 5% under the field. He is shooting guards, point guard eligibility, so I'm getting 30% of him. RJ Barrett is in half my lineups. That's 20% more than everybody else on FanDuel. And then I did not get to Jokic. That was sort of the cost of me getting to Holmgren instead. So my Jokic, I am 8% under the field here, but let's look where Holmgren ended up. Holmgren ended up being 9% over the field, and oh dear God, Jonas Valanciunas, he's 5,500 on FanDuel. I am at 31% over the field. The field's at 7%. I am at 39%. So shout out to our friends in Mexico City, because there's a lot there. I will do some late swapping to address that. We have 15 minutes here until tip-off. So let's see. We talked about the Sims. I want to remind everybody that because we had predicted by Ben Ross on the Sunday show, by the way, tune in at 9 o'clock tomorrow. You're going to get 4 hours of NFL DFS, talking nothing but main slate, DFS, and sports wagering. So our promo is MILL, MILL, because as Ben Rossa said with prescience, he said, you know what? Someone with the Stokastic logo is going to win the $1 million prize on DraftKings. They, in fact, did. So to celebrate that, we are giving a 30% discount on any NFL package. You want a week, you want a month, you want the full rest of the season, you want the Sims, you don't want the Sims, whatever you want, 30% off with the promo code MILL, MILL. That sale is good until the final whistle blows on Monday Night Football. Okay, there you go. Promo code MILL. Fourth place was Red Skittles. Matt.
Man, that happened on our show. Still going. Yeah, that's wild. And I see that Rick 1-2-3-4-1-2 is now like in the. I saw him in like the 5-5-5 or 8-8-8 NBA or whatever.
Oh, was a monster created last Sunday?
I mean, I saw he came in like fourth in that, or one of them. So yeah, I mean, hey, you got to extend that run hot. I mean, I can only imagine the contest I'll be playing when I hit that millie.
And at this point, it's you're straight into tax harvesting mode, right? Because you're going to be paying like what 37%, whatever it is on those taxes. So that's like a discount. Even if you don't win more, you're losing less. That's kind of a real CPA thing. Even though I am a CPA, I am not a practicing CPA. Any tax advice I give or other accounting information is only for entertainment purposes. Reminds me, I got to take my ethics exam this year for the old CPA. All right, let's see what chat hates about me now. What do we think?
Everything.
Pretty much. That's okay. We'll survive. Let's see. Oh, super chat. Yes, let me get to that. My apologies. We've got two of them. Brandon Wagner, $5 super chat says, is Ty Jerome playable on DraftKings, or has his run been becoming or a result of blowouts?
So yes and yes, I think. So yeah, he's been getting more run because of blowouts, but he's been good for the Cavs. This is so crazy, but in the like NBA, I think it's NBA Reference or one of those, Basketball Reference, their top 10 MVPs after the first week of the season, Ty Jerome was 10th. Because of however they the algorithms and stuff do, they have recognized that Ty Jerome's playing really good ball. I mean, just in its simplest form, he's averaging 22 DraftKings points per game, and he's playing 16 minutes. So he's been good when he's been on the court. Excuse me. I do think that he's got an extra run because of blowout situations, but he's the backup point guard. So I think he's going to play no matter what.
All right. Olrat says, guys, let's see a little analysis here. I want to hear about McCain at point guard for Philly. So I'm assuming you're talking about Jared McCain. So he is, tenuous at best. So he's played in 4 games, 4 minutes, just under 4 minutes, 17 and a half minutes. And then in his last game against Detroit, he played almost 22 minutes. I don't think I would want to go there at all. I think that is just an incredible risk. There are many other ways to approach this. He's asking for DraftKings here. The other question he has is Zach Edey, who is, I'm not surprised I don't know how to pronounce it, but it just occurred to me. I don't know how to pronounce that. But he is the longtime college player who is with the Grizzlies. He is, I think he's a Canadian, but let's look at his numbers. So and
the funny thing about him is I'm not getting a ton of him in like my top 300 lineups. I think like 5%, but in my highest ROI lineup, he's in it.
Okay. That's probably because minuscule popularity.
Randomness, minuscule popularity, all of the above. Like I would not go out of my way to play him personally.
And again, this is where there's no stone unturned on in DFS, right? It's what angle are you going for? How are you trying to get there? What is the rest of the field doing? How can the litany of things that we need to think about? You really need a double for him. You're taking on DraftKings, you do have the utility spot still, but you're taking out another center position. They're usually the best point per dollar plays on there. That means you're losing the double of Sabonis and Pirtle or players of that ilk that are there. He will be unique. The ROI bears out, but that ROI is on an extremely long, some would call it an infinite time horizon. It could take some actual calendar days to be realized, which makes things very, very tricky. So I don't dislike it, and Olrat knows what he's doing. So he understands the risk reward, and he's been around for a long time. But for those of you wondering why the hell is he talking about these plays, because he's looking for someone who's unique. that can hopefully pop off for 25 fantasy points, and he needs the likes of the other popular players to dud with a 16 DK point outing. Like, these guys are a little more expensive, but the Davion Mitchells, the Grady Dicks, the players like that to just have a poor showing, that Ellis, etc. And that's what he's looking for, because that 7 points, those 8 points, if you have a very similar lineup to the rest of the field, that can really get you big bucks. If you were up at the top, those 7 or 8 points are probably taking you from like a min cash to like a 10x kind of night, if not better, if the rest of your lineup comes along for the ride. All right, let's run. It looks like we got these updated 4.5 minutes ago. I'm going to do my first and final run here of the Sims for DraftKings. Where have you sort of settled now that the dust is less cloudy around Ellis?
A little bit more of all the guys around Keon Ellis, like Donovan Mitchell, Garland. I'm getting 47% of those guys. I'm getting 33% Podziemski. Mike Conley, I'm getting
Are you playing 150 tonight, or is that you're just doing the?
I'm not. I'm just. I just am running the Sims because we're doing the show and stuff. So, and I have been playing more, like just with the Sims and stuff. I've been playing more. Like I've been playing 50 to 150 lineups on some nights when I've been able to, and there's been no NFL, and I haven't had like family stuff to do. I've got some stuff to do after the show, so I didn't know how long I'd be able to sit at my computer because it was a late show, so I'm not playing 150. But if I were, I'd only be getting to, and I say only, I'd still be getting to 25% Keon Ellis, and that's just a byproduct of his ownership going down now. He's only 16% own projection, and he's cheap, so you don't need a ton out of him.
That is playing these and playing 150. It's a product of doing the shows with Greg and Eric, isn't it?
Yeah, probably, but also just like when I was writing my articles, I've been writing for a while, but recently, and I can't tell you how long ago, they wanted me to incorporate more of the Sims into my articles. So in doing that, I just started getting more familiar and comfortable with them. And once you get comfortable with the Sims, why wouldn't you use them,
Yes.
Like even when I'm playing one lineup now, I'm using the Sims to like get that best lineup. Now, I do think you're making a mistake generally by just going into the Sims and like not changing anything at all, just because a lot of people are going to have, not the same lineups maybe, but very, very similar lineups where I think you can get good edges on, whether it's minutes or projections, whatever it is that you think you have an edge on.
A good question here. Says late to the party. What do you think about Doug McDermott? I would be shocked if he plays more than 12 to 14 minutes. Let's see what we have him for. But I get why they're starting him. It's to keep the back part of the rotation somewhat intact. But it's going to be thin. All right, we have him for 18 minutes. We have him for 12 fantasy points. He's going to be entirely tied to scoring. He is at $3,000. So he's at the DraftKings floor. I would not want to play him. Let me see if I'm getting him in any of the simulated lineups. We have 6 minutes to go here for those of you still finessing things. McDermott.
I'm getting 0 of him.
0 of him. Yeah.
Fine with that. He's just you just talked about how he's projected for 12 fantasy points in 18 minutes. I feel like 18 minutes is high, and you need him to not only play the minutes, you need him to be productive in the minutes. It's just, he's not a guy that I'm really ever wanting to play. I don't even know if he's going to play blowout run in this game. So yeah, no for me.
Yeah. How old is he now? God, he's been in the league forever. He's 33. He's been in the league for 11 years. So maybe because 5 games in 8 days, he gets, a little veteran nod or something. I don't know. Now we're making some assumptions that are pretty thin. All right, let me collect my 100 lineups. Let's see where I am for this. RJ Barrett, I got on 80% of my lineups. Donovan Mitchell, wow, Donovan Mitchell coming in at 54. Garland at 45. Podziemski at 39. I need more on Tentacrupo. And let's add in some Lillard. Because guess what? Maybe some of these guys will end up in the same lineup. Some might call that a game stack. Lillard is only 4%.
Laravia starting today instead of...
Laravia is interesting.
Yeah, I played him instead of Aldama.
I've got him on 44% of my teams.
Aldama's not out, is he? No.
Oh, joy. Oh, joy.
Laravia looks really good now.
Yep. I'm getting a ton. I'm now up to 2% of Lillard. Let's put him at
Although
40.
he is 5,100. Like, I don't know.
He's getting expensive. I don't even want to speak it into existence. I'm just not. I'm playing a lot of Laravia.
It kills Aldama. It doesn't kill Aldama, but man, that sucks.
No, but Aldama kill. I'm going to say it anyway. Aldama kills us when in these stupid situations. How many times have you played him and he did his 17 minutes, 12 fantasy points, and then you gave up on him, and then he gets 28 minutes and 40 fantasy points? That's the Sandy Aldama experience.
Yeah, that certainly is.
Oh boy, Keon Ellis has popped up in my first 5 lineups. Now I'm terrified. I was going to upload. How many did I have Keon? Ooh, 37%. I need less.
Where did Santi Aldama go to college?
I do not know.
Loyola in Maryland.
It wasn't the University of Washington. That's about the only player.
It was just very random. Loyola. He was so good in college.
All right. Data filter. Do a little randomness on here. We're going to flip those in. Podzemski. God, I just saw Dean Wade in one of my lineups. That doesn't make me happy.
That's never fun.
No, it's not. All right. Well, it'll teach me to do too many sites again. 2 minutes till lock, everybody. We appreciate you. We're up to 101,000 subscribers now on the Stokastic YouTube channel. So that's kind of fun. Let's see the lobby here. Is Gordon Hayward playable? No.
He retired.
Did he? Why are
yeah.
What are they asking about? Oh, is that just to troll me? Let's see. The secret side is mostly full. People should play on the secret site. Get good ROI over there. Thank you, Malakar. We appreciate it. Hey, guess what? Those of you that are sipping on the Haterade tonight, you can wait a whole another week before you have to see me again talking some NBA. But you're going to get me tomorrow night for the NFL.
I was going to say.
Sunday live before lock. It'll be glorious. I hope to see you all there because I am going to be dropping in more team-free money, $1 head-to-heads on the DK lobby there, and I am getting my ass kicked all season, giving back to the community, and I'm really trying. This is getting frustrating. Come back here tomorrow and scoop some of those head-to-heads. Get those sweet, sweet, sweet EMac dollars. Well, more like EMac dimes because playing for $1 is only going to get you 80 cents back. But nonetheless, those are sweet, sweet, sweet EMac dollars out there, especially if you beat me regularly like pretty much everybody is doing. So it doesn't matter. If it's classic Slate, if it's the showdown, the head-to-heads are just not my friends today. So we've got all that. Oh, and look, by my excited wild gesticulating here, I just got 10,000 steps because I was at like 9,990 or so when I sat down. So enough of these. Playing the drums got me there. Now I'm at 10,016. So there we go. With that, I think we're going to slide on out of here. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Don't forget, you get an extra hour tonight. That's always a nice one. Perhaps a tasty beverage is in your future, perhaps a chewy gummy, or maybe a little puff of smoke. But with that, follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stokastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.